Hello and welcome to this special birthday live stream. I'm your host Mod Sween and I'm joined by my co-host Mod Rock.
Hello.
We've also got Mod Kieran.
Hello.
We've got Mod Lenny.
Hello.
And Mod Ash.
Hello.
Through the course of the stream we'll also be joined by Mod Bruno, Oasis and Nasty. And I'd like to thank Mod Tide on the chat, so at Old School RuneScape to reach him. Mod John making things happen behind the scenes, and Mod Parish for his work on making the data stream look the best it has ever looked. You'll see that shortly. So tomorrow, or Saturday the 22nd of February, will mark 7 years since Old School RuneScape was released, and we've decided to mark the occasion in a few different ways. So yesterday we added an in-game event. You can head to Juliet to the west of Varrock to begin it, but hold off because we'll be playing through that shortly. So this live stream will be full of what I think is quite good content. We're going to start by looking, well, the five of us will start by looking at the past 7 years of Old School RuneScape. Then Mods, Kieran and Oasis will play through the birthday event with you all. That's followed by a data stream. And then Mods, Ash and Bruno will be challenging you to some hide and seek. So how are we feeling? It's been 7 years.
Yeah, it's
nearly
crazy to think that I've been here now over half of the game's lifetime. So I joined middle of 2016. Like my first project I worked on was Skatizo, the fond days, and then promptly getting thrown into Ash's construction rewrite.
Oh yes.
That was a lovely. I was like, hi, welcome to the team. Here's construction.
7's old, man.
Yeah.
That is pretty crazy for a game that I feel like still new. In my head, it's still new. Like we've just brought back Old School.
It's a darn long time. It's nearly half the time I've been here.
Yeah, like literally. That is quite crazy. That is honestly crazy though. But like the top thread on Reddit the last couple of days has been this talk about how maybe we'll get into it in a bit, but when Old School first launched, that Barbarian Assault was disabled and loads of people didn't know it. And like obviously I was around at the time and we all knew the Barb Assault was disabled when we launched Old School because we were worried about having issues and that we had to fix before we could be happy with it. So yeah, pretty crazy. It's amazing to still be here in 2020 and right now I see no reason why we're not going to be here in 2030, so bring on the next 10 years.
And a shout out to Mod Nexus for getting Barbarian Assault launchable again for Old School, otherwise we might still not have it.
So I don't think I even started playing Old School until mid to late 2015. I was quite a late adapter.
I started playing Old School, well, I voted in the poll to bring back Old School. Played for a week or so, but I was at uni and that kind of took me back. Stopped playing again. I came back in 2015 with the WWF event.
Oh, really? You came in for that?
I came in not for that, but when that was active.
That makes sense, because I don't think it had that commercial impact.
They got me some easy farming levels.
I did start playing Old School back in 2013, but I think at that point I was just as much a noob as I first was playing in 2007. Like, I'd gotten better over the years and then forgotten everything again in the time that I hadn't been playing. I
had the problem where I was playing RuneScape with friends, and then slowly over time they stopped playing because I got so far ahead due to having no life. Then they were like, oh, come play Old School, because they were better than me at that point. So I jumped into Old School and it wasn't long before I surpassed them. They got bored again, quit, and I still have no life.
Well done.
So I think the best way to approach this would just be to go through the years, start at 2013 and then finish up where we are here with 2020. We've put together some really, really high budget effort slides. So John, if you can see the first one. So let's just remind ourselves of what happened in 2013.
That background was top budget.
Super. Those are just some quick things, not quick, but those are some of the headline things that happened in 2013. Most of all, the poll to bring back Old School, which saw just under 500,000 people.
It was
470 something thousand, I think.
I think it was like the exact number then.
Nah, I'm not into that.
So how was the experience for you? Like, because out of all of us on the sofa, you're the only one who was at Jaggies at the time, and you were part of that mad team who pulled it all together.
Well, I'd heard there was some talk of a separate RuneScape splitting off from the main one. And naturally I was a little nervous about that, but I thought it also sounded like the team I wanted to be on. So I dropped a note to Mod Pips, the senior designer on RuneScape at the time, saying, hey, if this splits off, do you think I can be on that team, please? Here's the kind of things I think we could usefully do for it without it changing the feel. And he wrote back very politely saying, if it goes ahead, we'll bear in mind that you'd be interested. Thank you. Then nothing much happened for a few weeks, and then come February 2013, we get announcements that we're going to do it, and we're going to do it at the end of February, which I'm just thinking that the strategy behind that one might have been get it out there, get a nice influx of players, so that there's some really healthy numbers going into the board meeting at the end of March or something, and thus the perhaps I'm cynical. Anyway, that was the chosen date. We were going to launch it that week, ready for the 22nd, and Mod Nexus, Mod Reach, and I were all summoned. As Nexus and I had been the uploader in 2007. I did it at the start of it and handed it over to him halfway through. So we were kind of the ideal people to oversee the code, because we knew how it worked in those days. We knew how to do the upload process, which is relatively restricted around Jagex. And we spent the remaining week or so we'd got trawling logs of bugs that were fixed in late 07, early 08. So
on the old management system.
Yes,
project
management system, or PMS, which is Jagex's in-house tool we used in those days for bug tracking. I think it's written by a guy. Anywho, so we trawled through as many as we could. Mod Reach had lots of records of bugs, and we fixed loads. Didn't get the one about cats in Pyramid Plunder. Sorry about that. And but we did at least carve out a few features that we thought were just a bit too ropey to be left in for launch, like POH.
Is that weird going back in time and realising that obviously RuneScape still exists and they've spent a lot of time fixing bugs that will have been in content that you guys were bringing back? Mm-hmm. So you diving through those logs, like how many bugs did you actually have to go through?
I don't know how many Reach and his colleagues went through, but they spent several days doing it and sent us, I honestly don't remember how many. I think it was in the low dozens. Partly because it was hard for anyone to remember exactly whether the piece of content existed. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the bugs fixed in middle of 2007 were in the God Wars dungeon, which of course wasn't an issue for us because we hadn't got it. That was interesting. And the announcement was we were going to launch it on that Friday, and we were told, like, even if it means stay till midnight, we're going to launch on that Friday. That's how it's going to be. MMG promised it on the forums a few days ago, so we're going to do it. So we cancelled our evening plans, etc. Nexus and I struck an arrangement whereby, he'd got slightly more family to look after than I had at the time, so it was agreed that I'd stay late in the office and cover the launch. He'd cover for me next time we needed something. And the company ordered in some crisps, I think, and put out some Prosecco. We did it. Stayed around to monitor it till just after midnight, I think, and then left it for the night. It was great to see the excited players again. In addition to fixing bugs, by the way, we did a few things like create Skippy, because we didn't think Tutorial Island was going to handle a very large flood of people very well. It was never really designed to expect that, so things like the doors would be a problem. So, bearing in mind that we had no map editor and and very limited other dev tools, all we could really do was take some existing assets like Skippy from Rivington for skipping the tutorial, get it, and make him appear if you walk through certain bits of the tutorial island, and run some different code if he's on the tutorial rather than in Rivington, so that we could avoid that, and also try and make the doors not so bottlenecky. Also a few checks to stop people repeatedly killing rats if they don't need to, so that if you've killed a rat you then shove off and do the next bit of the tutorial rather than killing more rats to kill time.
I always enjoyed that part of the tutorial because then I could go through and go get level 3 on all my like going through the tutorial to get level 3 on every skill you train in Tutorial Island. So when you left Tutorial Island, you were the best possible account you could be, and then realise that the first thing you can go do is go and get XP a lot quicker than you could on Tutorial Island.
It did always feel like the sort of efficient thing to do, to just get your stats as high up as you can on Tutorial Island, regardless of the fact that it's so much faster anywhere else. But it's just the efficient thing to do. You've got to make use of everything on Tutorial Island.
And watching the players discussing it was also fun, apart from watching the floods of them. the forums suddenly lit up again in a way they hadn't before, and with lots of requests. Can we just have this thing, this thing, and this thing as well? And other players saying, no, if they start changing it, EOC will happen. Watching that debate play out in real time was quite entertaining.
How much would it be nuts just to see the quantity of players that were just jumping straight back on it? And
I think something like 300,000 players popped in to check out Old School at its launch.
that is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, many took their nostalgia hit and pushed off again, but half stayed or thereabouts. And before we saw a decline into the summer, we kept like 140,000 at least, and come the end of the summer we started showing growth again as the community realised that Jagex was going to keep leaving a dev team on it. And much discussion there was about whether the price would be put up so that it was a fee in addition to your RuneScape subscription. Well, ModPips promised that it wasn't going to happen for at least 6 months, and at the end of the 6 months decided not to do it then either, and it has just tracked the RuneScape subscription rather than being an extra fee on top, which I think Old School players think is perfectly, well, it would be jolly odd perhaps if we'd put the price higher for the team of 4 rather than the team of however many RS3 had. So I think that was a rather good decision, and by sticking to it, players realised it was worth sticking around because the product wasn't going to go away, so they may as well commit their time. Also, we started getting dev tools to edit the map, edit menus. Ever tried creating a mini game with no menu editor, despite it having fairly elaborate menus?
And this is why Nightmare Zone's in the King Black Dragon lair, right? You didn't have a map editor, so you had to take an existing map and just instance it.
Yep.
So you could spawn things dynamically.
Quite. And that's why its lobby looks like it was assembled from scraps, because it was.
Is that why the cow is still in there? Because there was a cow there before and you just built around it?
Correct. Now, I could have perfectly easily moved the cow out if I'd wanted to, or make, when the cow spawns, if it's in that area, move it to the other side of the fence. But I thought it'd be funny not to. And Lobby Cow became, one of the things, to the extent that our first RuneFest emote, when we actually did have model editing tools, was a dancing cow. And the first birthday event was the cow mask.
OG old school memes.
Yeah.
That no one remembers now, I think. Not many people do anyway.
So now, when we release content, or even just when we're looking at the rest of the year, we do have targets and we have predictions and numbers to hit. In 2013, did you have those expectations, or was it just a bring back Old School and do some stuff with it?
MMG had promised a dev team, and we were a dev team, and it seemed like the reasonable thing to do was to just try and retain the players by delivering on a few of the things they were asking for, but within the constraint of keeping it as the thing people remembered that they would actually want to play. Targets weren't really being looked at until into 2014. It's partly because at the end of 2013, Matt came and told me at RuneFest that he'd just heard from the CFO that our owners at the time were quite pleased with how Old School had turned out, and they were thinking it might be worth putting a bit more investment into it. And one of the things that was pitched, I think, was increase the team to 9 staff by adding another 5 content developers and apparently no QA or graphics. And but in exchange for that, put the price up to, another $3 a month in addition to your RuneScape subscription, maybe. Matt and I agreed almost immediately that Old School players probably wouldn't appreciate paying a premium to have a team of 9 compared to the team on RS3, which was still bigger than 9. Matt passed that one back up the chain, and it was agreed, all right, well, you can have... Well, we hired Mod John C as a QA tester in early 2014, and we were allowed to hire an artist as well, Alfie, if he's still out there. Hi, Alfie. And thus we grew more gradually, but didn't put the price up, and carried on showing growth through 2014, in the middle of which Matt was told that they would like certain... I think they didn't set targets as such, but some hopes for expectations for what we would hopefully do over the course of 2014. And, well, players kept coming back. It was marvellous.
So let's remind ourselves of the content that came in 2014. John, you want to flash up the slide? So there's just some of the larger bits of content we released, and also didn't release. You see there the artisan poll. So a skill that failed the poll twice, I believe.
Yes, I think so.
The trading post, the precursor to the Grand Exchange, Iron Man mode, of course, which would go on to have a great impact on the game.
Pretty crazy. I guess this is the year where Old School really started delivering a ton of content, right? Most of 2013 was building up with a tiny team, just doing small qual polls, right?
Yeah.
Until you got to the point where you're delivering Nightmare Zone. So
Because it's like late August by the time we actually get the ability to edit the map in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff you really can't do without editing the map and editing menus and editing models.
And even those tools were like, those were the original 2007 tools brought back to work, well, back in 2014. So they were pretty bad. And in fact, we have used those for most of Old School's history
What do you mean it were?
until the last couple of years, where we've started to get the newer tools built to work with Old School content. So yeah, we're in a much better place on that front now.
I think we've had a few new tools since then. I think the artists have got a new tool to model in.
What's being done there is that RS3's tools are being copied and edited so that they can run Old School assets. So rather than trying to recreate every tool improvement that was done between 2007 and 2013, or indeed 2020 these days, and try to backport 13 years of tools improvement work, what they've done is start from the improved tool and adapt it to be able to work with Old School assets and save out in the Old School format. Now, that's been pretty good for the map editor. I confess I still struggle to work with the improved 3D model thing, but then I'm not actually an artist, so I'm not supposed to be able to do that, and it's probably for the best that I don't keep.
And the interface
trying.
editor is a
Much better than it
nice
has
improvement
been.
too.
I take a look at our map editor and think, I'm glad I'm not the person that mainly deals with that. It is mild. For someone that doesn't necessarily use it that often, it is very confusing to even try and get the smallest things done. It's like you go to paste something and you realise, oh no, it hasn't pasted it. It's done something completely different. Or you go to like delete something and you don't delete it. You like right click or something, something that you wouldn't normally expect to with modern interface styles. It just does differently. You've gone, oh, I've accidentally done this now.
There was also the thing that with the old map editor, if you press Ctrl Z, it would undo all the changes of that type up until the last time you did something different. So it wouldn't undo just the last thing you did. If you'd been, I don't know, mapped down a couple of trees and then started editing height map for the next 10 minutes and then press Ctrl Z, it would undo all the height map work back to how the map was when you last put down a tree, because that was the last time you did something different. That was a bit of a surprise. So as a rule, I would never press Ctrl Z or Ctrl Z for our overseas friends. I'd just save the file very, very regularly, and if I got stuck, I'd throw the damn thing away and open it again in new without a saving.
I think with 2014's things, you can see like the start of a level of ambition that we wanted to build with Old School. Like Artisan, the first skill pool, right? I mean, Old School's team was still tiny in 2014. How many devs were you at that point?
2014? Well, we'd got me and Reach as the two devs, and
you had two devs,
yeah.
John as QA.
Yep.
You were offering polls of skills. Like, Iron Man mode launched in 2014. Like, these are significant additions to the game. And obviously, Artisan poll, and it went through polls, it failed. I believe you then ended up polling a load of things from Artisan. Some of the new skill content that would have been added, but never got.
I think so, though. I don't actually remember.
That never passed either, so it never happened. But
yeah,
like. That was an amazing year to me as a player, like watching it all happen. And
Motherlode Mine was one of the prouder things, I think. It ended up being a dev job on my desk rather than Reach's because of just the way I think I was coming off one project and was available to take it, and he was still in the middle of something else, so I got that one and had a lot of fun with it because we were not getting a lot of graphics assets, but I could take existing ones and repaint them by this point. So I think I took the Haunted Mine, which had an unusual kind of wall kit, painted it shades of brown, stretched it a bit to make it feel a bit more intense, and took the Elemental Workshop water wheel and machinery, rejigged it into a different configuration, worked out how to make what actually looks like a grill at the end so that your ore goes into the sack, etc. And just did what I could with what I got.
Yeah. And look how many people have probably played Motherlode Mines since. How many hours have people spent in there?
I'd never considered that it was like recycled content.
Oh yeah, whole thing's recycled. Now Reach was actually getting a bit better with the model editing tool, better than I ever have, and he made the Prospector outfit, which I couldn't. But most of the other stuff in there is, again, recycled. Prospector Percy, for example. And the dwarves in there, they're just repainted existing dwarves to match what was done with Prospector Percy. And along the way, we noticed that they looked a little bit like Mario. So one of them's got a description saying that he likes eating mushrooms and rescuing princesses as a tribute to all those games that we've loved so much.
The other big thing from that list of 2014 was the trading post. So at the start of Old School, there's no Grand Exchange, there's no trading system at all. Like you had to go player-to-player trading, and so like there was a market at Varrock where I think most of the big trading was going on in World Two.
Zybez to help find each other.
Yeah, and then Zybez was like made like that database system where you could search and list offers, sort of like a mini GE, but it would be you found the right person, that go and PM them in game so you can try and meet up. Like pretty crazy experience, and it was very nostalgic, like going back to like how it used to sort of be in like 2007.
When you had to merge off the forums.
Yeah, literally. People would put off. I mean, that often that was done, right? People used the forums to buy and sell stuff. So pretty crazy. And then we ended up offering the trading post.
Well, there was much debate as to whether a Grand Exchange was right. For many players, it was part of the thing that made it no longer their RuneScape. I get that, especially as it really does lose a lot of the player-to-player communication. So players said, but players wanted something, but they didn't necessarily want the whole features of a GE. So we used a survey, maybe not in retrospect a very well designed one, but it ascertained these features everyone loves. These features some people were okay with, these features not very popular. So we made a trading post that was a bit like this rather than the full GE. So it would let you communicate with other players, find them, but you'd still go and meet in person to do the exchange. And we shipped it, and players decided at that point, nah, what's that? We're on a GE. Oh, well, come on, GE. Anyway, so we polled a full GE early next year and delivered it.
I remember that being a ridiculously close poll for a little while, and I mean, I had no idea if it was going to pass. I think it was hovering around, wasn't it?
I remember just earlier this week, though, there was, I think, a meeting I was in, and I think you might have been as well, Kieran. Somebody who's a little less familiar with the game was asking what there was before the Grand Exchange, and we mentioned the trading post, and Mod Curse, until he saw a picture of the interface, was adamant he could not remember it for the life of him. He played at the time, but just did not believe us saying that it was the thing there before the Grand Exchange.
Yeah, we had how long was it that trading post was going before GE was replaced it?
Well, it was mid-autumn, I think, replaced in, February, March next year?
Good 6 months, wasn't it?
Something of that sort.
So I never used it. I didn't play during that time. So I've heard of how awkward it was, but I'm kind of glad that I never got to really experience it.
It was intended to be less awkward than an external website or the forums, in that you could click on the thing and list what you wanted and see people selling it. But it was not. It was nowhere near as convenient as a GE. Because then you'd be told, well, it's this person, so you can add them and talk to them and meet up, but you had to still go and do it.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't anywhere near as convenient as Grand Exchange, but it definitely was a huge improvement for me as a casual player over having to look on forums or scout Falador Park and Varrock.
But I can definitely see why it was a controversial poll. Like, it is game changing, and it is definitely very different today than it was in 2014.
And to this day, sometimes people write in saying, well, we've lost so much community because the GE's a thing. On the other hand, it really was quite a high majority in favour of that.
I was going to say, how much of 4,000 screaming people going, selling this, buying that, selling this is particularly really community?
It was fun. Everyone's got.
I don't think I made friends off the people that I merged from, but
I think I've spoken before on streams how I was scammed pre-old school, but back when Falador Park was used, and there was levels of organisation to it. So like groups of players would sell different things in different areas. That was established. But back when the font of the text in the trade screen looked very similar, I think I was selling a set of Varros, probably Daroks, for 7.4 mil, and they quickly changed that to 74. 004 GP. I'm pretty sure they were offering well over the market price of it, so I very quickly pressed accept. This was before the warning was in stage as well, so then I was 7 mil out.
I remember the days of unidentified herbs, not knowing what stack was what, and then buying loads of people's stacks to get them all up, and then going, hang on a minute, I don't need my guams. Let me bank everything else and go sell my guams and go, yeah, trust me, they are this. And then, oh look, I've just turned my guams into Ranar money.
So the GE was released in 2015. Well,
Yeah.
John, do you want to flash up the slide for the 2015 updates? So again, you polled another skill. That skill failed. Sailing. Anyone who was here at the time, we polled it. How close was it? What was the feeling like in the office when we were looking to poll it?
It was never that close. I mean,
65, 67%.
yeah. So we could see it wasn't going anywhere. But it was definitely exciting in the lead up to it. John did quite a lot of the creating of that blog and putting together images using existing graphics recycled to at least make it look a bit nautical. And it actually did seem quite interesting. To me, it felt a little like a dungeoneering where you'd be using the skill by going to an unusual place and doing things that would help with your other skills. And in that way, it reminded me a little of dungeoneering with boats and at sea. I think we had a lot of fun doing it, if it had passed, but I can't honestly say I was that surprised, because the idea of a new skill was quite off-putting to people even then. And that's not the kind of skill everyone necessarily even wanted if they did want one.
So looking at the list of updates, it seems as though 2015's updates saw a change to the way people played the game. So we saw the Grand Exchange bring in like a level of convenience, and then Zola's release provided like that kind of single repeatable GP grind.
I'd also note free-to-play.
Oh yeah.
And bombs. The existence of a free-to-play version of the game was something the company did cautiously, because people are currently paying to do it. If we let them do it for free, will they just stop paying? Will we end up shutting down the product, get rid of the dev team, etc.? This thing's growing. What if we upset the apple cart? On the other hand, players were very keen for it, and apparently the numbers worked out that if free-to-play had bonds with which to become members, it would be safe enough for the company to do it. So let us have it.
And I don't there's any regrets, because 2015 was a real start of Old School skyrocketing in terms of how many members it had and how many players were playing the game.
Which is why players have been asking for free-to-play, because they knew all their friends who had declined to come back to join them because of the membership fee.
Yeah, I think in fact there's one thing missing off that list as well. I didn't say it, resizable mode. So you had the start of that year, 2015, what a set of stuff. You had Zulra come out,
Yep.
first proper unique solo boss in Old School.
First unique content for Old School, in a sense.
Yeah, amazing stuff. You had free to play,
Yep.
and bonds all come through, so people could start paying for membership if they're in Game Gold. Free access to the game, which is you could play it and then become a member later. Resizable mode came out. The Grand Exchange came out. You had all of these game shifting things.
Fairly quick.
You could finally play the game full screen rather than having to play fixed screen. And right now there's a good mix of people still to this day who obviously a load of people play fixed and a load of people play resizable as well. So
It was a very quick succession as well.
Yeah.
From the launch of Zora at the start of January through to the GE and to resizable mode, during the course of which Modreach worked on achievement diaries and the introduction of bonds and things. Like, that's only like 4 months with many big hitter updates in it. Mind you, I also know just how many weekends and evenings I was in here, because that G did not come together quickly, and nor did resizable mode. I think the weekend that really made a difference was the bank holiday weekend. That's a 3-day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and I spent the Saturday and the Sunday and half the Monday just taking every interface in the game and adapting them as necessary to make them at least look coherent in resizable mode. And there were things I couldn't get away from, like some of them had rectangles filling their space, so I had the choice of recreate the whole interface or just expand that rectangle to fill the screen, which seemed coherent even if it wasn't very pretty. Some of them we've been able to change since then to be even nicer, and it just was a very quiet weekend, during the course of which I very nearly had a fiasco where somebody asked me to tweak the price of third age capes in the GE. So I was going to set the price to $1 billion or whatever, and there's one box where you type in the number of the value that you want to set it to. And there's another box where you type a number and it creates that many of the item and injects them into the economy. And I think I was within a whisker of typing that billion into the wrong box and pressing the go button. Obviously there's a button for getting them out again, but I think players would have probably noticed, and that would have been embarrassing, especially on a long weekend where there was no one else around to assist with the aftermath.
Oh, that would have been funny. Well, maybe.
But only because you wasn't here at the time.
It's funny looking back.
Yeah.
Now it is, anyway.
I can't remember whether I realised before pressing the button or whether the button turned out to have a confirm screen, but I've never dared go near that button again, just in case.
That's like that time that Matt killed a load of people with Cree.
Yeah, for what it's worth.
I think he told them that he was going to kill them if they came anywhere near him. There was warning.
Yeah, I think the idea was that he had to be standing in a particular place so that Cree would turn up like 5 tiles east of him in the arena.
Oh,
now, the dev could have implemented it so that Cree would turn up at a specified coordinate rather than relative to the person with a potato. But as it was implemented, it turned up relative to Matt's position. And that meant that if Matt didn't quite realise where the position had to be, he'd get Cree a bit further south. And Cree did what Cree does.
Was this the 1,000 kills of Armadillo
one of those streams?
I think I remember that, and I think one of the best things that I remember from 2015 was making children cry at Christmas.
Oh yes.
So 2015 saw a change in the kind of the cadence of releases. We started getting more releases out the door. 2016, Mod John, should we take a look at those? If I've got the right slide. No, I haven't. Close your eyes. Okay, open them again.
Spoilers.
Hey,
it's not like. Yeah, 2015 was the year I joined, like towards the end of that year.
I joined in towards the end of 2015.
2016, this is my first full year on.
Should we talk Urania? Because you are now a dev by this point, and so far most of it's been me talking about being the dev work.
Oh yeah, Monkey Madness.
Also, if I might quickly interject, Mod John, I believe we've got a Mod Oasis lurking out the door trying to get in. There he is.
Oh. Yeah, because what is it? I think a lot of that came out the second half of it. It was obviously Zaya at the beginning, which Kieran would have been QA.
Yeah, so I joined as QA July 2016, and I was QA all the way through to the end of Monkey Madness 2. But before the Monkey Madness 2 project, I already knew I was becoming was going to become a content developer. So Monkey Madness 2 was my last test project. My first dev project was Treasure Trails, a Master Clue Scrolls expansion that came out.
You had me for that one.
Which you tested. But yeah, Urania Ol is an interesting one. I forgot that was that long ago. I must have done that quite early on.
I think that was you demanding, like, that was one of your... every now and then you have this thing, it's like, oh, I really think we should do that. Occasionally, occasionally the wilderness ditch comes back once or twice over the years.
You're making it sound so petulant.
No. But it's like, you know how every now and then you kind of get excited for something that you really want to do.
Yeah.
And then I think I do definitely remember Kieran going, "Oh, we should really bring back ZMI," because I remembered having.
We had this list of like stuff that was half finished in the repository for Old School's original repository. So our build come back from like late August 2007.
Yeah.
But that included a load of content that was half finished.
Yep.
In that era.
Free Land of the Goblins, and this.
Now, the interesting thing about the Aurania altar, or ZMI altar, is that it was finished, essentially.
Yep.
Like, it was in that repository, ready to launch back in that time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'd already brought back God Wars, which was the other thing that was like just about there, right? And that
Path of Gluffery is likewise. The thing about a Path of Gluffery is that we, well, people wouldn't mind it, but the warped terrorbirds and warped tortoises isn't something that gets a lot of slayers all that excited. And it don't bring a lot other than those. So we just didn't do it, but we could have done. And Land of the Goblins is in there. That one would take a bit more work to complete and launch. We'd be capable of it. I don't honestly remember it coming with a lot of stuff, other than it leads to a big cliffhanger where Zanuck, spoilers, gets in a box and the lid shuts.
there's a lot of more work than you think it's going to be as well. Like doing that ZMI altar, you think it's finished. It's just putting in our build, maybe converting a bit of code because we've updated references and things like that.
Or come up with some ideas that they didn't have their initial launch.
But all that code was, some of it was good, some of it needed looking at quite heavily.
You reinvented the interface for paying runes to Eniola or whatever his name is.
The interface where you pay to access the bank needed a bit of work, and so I did that so that you could automatically pay. Rather than having to click on the rune every single time you banked, you could say, I want to pay with fire runes, and I'm going to pay with fire runes forever, because why would I pay with
that weird grid interface, doesn't it? Where it's not like they're
the interface
perpendicular to each other. It's more like a diamond-shaped grid with all the different runes on it.
And I didn't change the look of the thing, so kept that the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to update the code on the rune crafting altar. The way it used to work originally in the code that I inherited was that it would do a loop and go through one essence at a time and pick something and give XP every single time.
Oh, that's efficient.
Yeah, it wasn't very efficient. I did a lot of rework to make that nice. So yeah, it was a fun project, because normally you're writing content from scratch. This one was more of a technical, let's just change some code and update it.
You have to kind of look at the staff changes we had, 2015, 2016. Obviously, Archie joined the team.
Yep.
Maz joined the team.
Krista.
Krista was here for a while. We also had, obviously, me and Ed came in as QA. Ed then went back to university. Obviously Ed brought us the Winter Todd towards the end of the year, which was
He did.
Designed by him, coded by Maz.
He worked with Maz on the coding for it as well, I think, but it was she was definitely letting him have the design lead on this one. There was a lot of back and forth as to how that should be as well, because a lot of us had different ideas, and well, anyway, this is the version we went with.
We also had the POH construction rewrite as well. That was a fun one.
I was very proud of that. I can't imagine what it was like to test, but it was...
Well, yeah, you had to imagine that. I come in, I've been elsewhere in the industry before coming into Jagex, so I came in and said, okay, first thing you're going to do, John sits me down and goes, right, we're releasing Skatizo next week, go kill it, see what you think, and then speak with Maz if you want to change it. Went through a couple of small different design things, and immediately after that I go, right, now you're going to work with Ash. He's going to rewrite construction for you and build this wonderful new interface. And when you're coming in kind of new to the company and something like that that's fairly considerable in size come to you, it's rather daunting. Immediately after that went, oh yeah, Kieran's now doing his first dev project. Clues, you're on them. Off you go. Good luck. I do feel like when I came in, there was a few big projects that I was kind of thrown in at the deep end on.
We were getting a lot more adventurous by then. Well, the fact that we'd got a menu editor, which we didn't have in 2013, meant that we could even consider a construction project of that nature. But also, the bit where it moves rooms from place to place, taking into account they may be linked to other rooms by staircases, that really was quite difficult. especially as the code for how they currently behaved was not easily followable. I mean, no disrespect to the guy who wrote it. He's doing something really complicated, and I was trying to twist it. And I'm still rather proud of the fact that you put your pet rock down in a room with a staircase, and then you move the room that's connected to that staircase while rotating it through 270 degrees and putting it somewhere else on a different level. Your rock will turn up in the exact same place relative to the room it was in.
Those are the little things we end up proud of.
Yeah, because of all the other things I could have done with it, I'd probably have ended up losing your rock
Well,
halfway.
imagine having to test those little things that get put in.
And you found an interesting bug that had actually been pre-existing for Yonks, where different styles of one style of house had its portal mapped down 90 degrees to how
Yeah,
it used to
that
be.
was
Or
interesting.
its cave entrance or something.
When you had to go through all the different things, go to the estate, change this, blah, blah, go back, check the house, and then just randomly realising, hang on a minute, my portal rotated.
I
For no
thought-
reason.
It was just mapped down wrong on one of the versions of the terrain from 2006.
Yeah, I thought before that I had a difficult enough time trying to figure out whether or not people had different things mounted in their houses without actually loading the house in, just trying to figure it out for the collection log, let alone trying to move all that stuff around, leaving it intact, leaving it all suitably intertwined. I was struggling to just get my head around, does this person have this room? Yes. Do they have this in it? Is it in this state? Okay, that means they must have had that item at some point.
I can't tell you how that variable system works for the player. And anytime I go look at that, I just look at it and go, yeah, that's wizard.
I would say out of all the projects I've ever seen since my arrival here, that's probably the one that I think is most technically impressive.
Thank you.
Right,
I
shall we
think
take a
it
jump
came out
to-
with only one bug as well, which was more
Yeah.
impressive for that. I can't remember what it was.
Involved players, the code referring to coordinates outside the instance as players try to move rooms occasionally.
But yeah, it was like a project that size technical. Obviously, someone like Ash writing it, and someone like myself that's fairly green in the business at the time, coming out with it.
Right,
Well, at
let's
least
skip
you know
ahead
how
to
it wants to be.
2017. Sorry.
Go for it.
Okay, this is, I think 2017, Kieran and I, when we were looking at the slides, we saw a sudden balloon in the amount of content we were able to deliver. So there we've got raids, we've got the Inferno, Fossil Island, which was a huge effort. So a big thanks to Mod Man, should you be watching. Grotesque Guardians, I think this was Mod Ghosts, a pet project here, he was really proud of that. Shift, click, drop, I mean, it's not quite as exciting as, say, raids, but in
It's
itself,
revolutionary.
revolutionary, exactly.
Thank you, Mod Atlas.
We've also got there Winter 2017. Do you remember when we announced that in the summer of 2017? That
Yep.
mobile would be coming later that year.
We all knew it wasn't going to,
Yeah.
I think.
Well-
we all had no confidence it was
just
going to
a-
be. And,
on
but yeah.
announcement, when we were told it was going to be arriving in Winter 2017, that's what I believed would be happening.
Well, I think we had discussions like earlier in the year, and we kind of put out this roadmap. It was like, oh, okay, this is when we expect it to go by. And just looked at it and went, yeah, okay. And then someone went on stream and went, it's coming. And we're like, oh dear.
Yeah, not the least which is that even if no other things had ever arisen that needed more urgent attention, like some of the performance problems we was having in late 2017, it would have been jolly tight even if we hadn't decided to postpone it in favour of addressing those problems. And I don't honestly regret that we took the engine team and put them back on fixing that stuff rather than trying to hit that deadline that we'd picked out of wherever. I mean, I also got why if you set an ambitious deadline, people will, focus hard and work hard towards it. But I don't think that was going to work.
Yeah, insane amount of content that year.
I think 2017 or late 2016 when we were building Chambers of Xeric in that time, I remember there being a good few days where me and Ash were in the office for like 14 to 16 hours a day. And I think that was the last time I really think we had a massive crunch period in terms of extra hours doing. But between Christmas and New Year, everyone had gone on holiday, and it felt like it was literally just me and Ash
Yeah.
with
Very
something
large.
with something to help us get through the evenings.
Yes, which we probably shouldn't have had there, but it was very tasty.
And just slogging out all those hours to get that content out was crazy.
That was the first boss I made, that on for Chambers of Xeric.
That
I
was-
did an insane number of hours to get that done.
Remind me
and
where the
that-
Inferno had been.
Inferno was
sorry.
mid-2017.
Oh yeah, of course.
Chambers of Xeric was start 2017, so Alm was my first boss.
And that was because we were using a boss in a completely new way where we weren't necessarily using an NPC anymore.
That was a fun one.
Yeah,
But I'm still like, out of all the bosses I've ever made for this game, I think Great Alm is like still probably my best one.
we've not made many ever that cater to a potential party size like that. So you've got mechanics that we wouldn't need to consider elsewhere. Also, the fact that it's made out of scenery. Do you want to talk about how the scenery?
Oh, it's an absolute nightmare. I mean, Ghost did an amazing job to make that fight look incredible. The Alm looks amazing, and he gave me like what he was able to create for me was a ton of the thematics that fed into like the creativity that way to come up with mechanics for the actual fight. But yeah, that was really cool. But it basically gave me a set of constraints to work within to say like, this is what you got to play with. But yeah, basically the dragon, like it's not really a dragon, the Alm, like it's got three parts, like the hand, the two hands, and the head. They're all separate NPCs, but the NPCs are just invisible click boxes. The hands and the head are actually like scenery that animates, but that gives you a lot more limitations with what you can do.
Yep.
In terms of making a fight work. And there's not many NPCs around the game that change like what their idle pose is. And you've got this Alm and it's like this. Looks in that direction, then it looks in that direction. Or in the middle. And I've got to keep on setting it up so that it, like every time it's got to think, when do I look at the map, where should I focus next? Okay, now I look over here. Then it doesn't attack. Then it focuses over here, then it doesn't ever attack. Like it is
Someone's going to get that and put it in the art room.
I love it.
Can't wait.
But you had to try and set that up, and the way that the animation system works for scenery is massively limited compared to what you can do with NPCs.
Just a bit.
And the reason is scenery can be any size. Like an NPC has to be square, like 1x1, 2x2, 3x3, or so on. While like scenery can be a large rectangle sort of shape. But yeah, I'm happy with how that got in place. I had to start by just getting all those core technical pieces in place. I allowed the Alm to go down at one side and then come up at the other side.
I put together a Photoshop once of, I got in game and spawned these bits of scenery, just showing the Alm coming up one side, its hands coming up the other side, and the arm doing the Alm thing, the Alm doing the arm thing, homie. I think I put the Great Alm rises with the power of the arm thing, homie.
Yeah.
I rather enjoyed that.
And then of course Inferno was my next big thing for like in boss content. But middle of 2017, that was a spectacle, Inferno. And if Alm was the boss I was most proud of, Inferno is probably the thing content-wise as a whole that I'm most proud of working on. Like
I just don't think we could recreate the entirety of the office going into what we have, like a big auditorium, watching whoever happened to be on wave 40, 50 plus to try and watch the attempts, watching Wooks, watching Boti. That was incredible. I mean, it's such a hot summer as well. Everyone, I think we put.
I remember it so well though, like the launch day when everyone was jumping around the streams and the memes that were coming out of like, okay, Boti's just died on wave 68, now we're all watching Foe on the other channel.
Yep.
You just see how like our internal chat systems were basically just like Twitch was. It's like, who's ahead next? Who's ahead next? And someone go, oh, check out Foe. He's at like 45, and you just suddenly see everyone going on my way, and you just see this whole wave of people jump from stream to stream. And if you walked around the office that day, it was incredible. You either had like 20 or 30 people in the auditorium watching it on the massive TV, then complaining at whoever was switching from stream to stream when someone dies, going, you're not changing quick enough. Or just every person, even people that didn't even play Old School. Like you'd have like someone in finance that you just be walking around and just see someone in finance going, wow, this is really interesting. And
oh, it's so good, man. We were all gathered around PCs and stuff the whole time.
No disrespect to finance, but it probably was more interesting than what else they'll give me.
But like, obviously, right, we're working during the day. It's a Thursday. In fact, we did a Q&A that day because we used to do the Q&As on the Thursdays back
I remember that. I think that was my first ever Q&A.
Really? Nice.
I just joined the team that week.
And so I got home and obviously like, you know, I'm meant to go to bed for work on the next day on the Friday, and it's like, I can't stop watching the Inferno streams. I need to see the first kill, right? Like, I couldn't miss it. Like, I'd worked up from like we'd all worked so hard on this for like so long. I want to see that first kill happen, and I was like, I'm in bed. I've got Twitch hooked up to my TV so I can watch it while I'm in bed. And this is when this infamous Wooks run happens, when the whole Yad, what are you doing here? Chord comes from. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna get the chat. It was so exciting. Like,
You sitting there going,
I'm in bed.
I know that it's coming.
And I know what's coming. And Wooks beats the two mages and rages, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna happen. It was honestly, what an experience, that whole release. Like, I feel blessed to be able to have been in that sort of position where you know what's coming, but they don't. But yeah, that was great. And in fact, obviously, no one beat it that night. I think the first kill came the Saturday morning.
It was like 48 hours, almost it was like half an hour under 48 hours.
I woke up 20 minutes before we completed it, so I was able to watch and then managed to tweet out almost instantly. I didn't sound an alarm set. I just woke up 20 minutes before we finished it.
Yeah, the interesting thing, I was up because I was flying to Boston for a holiday on that Saturday, and about half an hour before I left the house for the airport, the kill happened. I was convinced it was going to happen while I was on a plane.
Yeah.
I remember even the day before it was released, even the energy between yourself and John. I was getting up to leave work, and I just see John running past, screaming, pushing you on a wheelie chair, with you waving a god sword in the air. I was like, "What is going on?"
That did happen.
I think a lot of our managers were too.
we got to bring that back whenever we finish big projects. But yeah. There's not many projects nowadays where it's just one dev like on a project with QA. We're often doing a lot bigger stuff at the minute, so it's multiple devs.
Well, you think Inferno was yourself deving it, I was the main QA for it, and then organising, getting people to jump in and out to test the boss fights and test things on that. I mean, you look at it, I'm by no means like amazing at PVM, but when you've got to try and work through something like that, it's a case of, do I make sure, you have to make sure it works as opposed to, can I beat it?
Mm-hmm. It was pretty unique.
Yes.
Like, that was just how excited I was when I was done. Like, John, we're going on a lap of the office, victory lap. It's not even out yet. We're on our wheelie office chairs, getting pushed around like, yeah!
I'd done that before with John some years previously, but he wasn't shouting quite so much at the time. We still got some funny looks as we went to the kitchen. I think it wasn't about celebrating so much as John saying he didn't really feel like walking to the kitchen for a cup of something, so I solved it.
So 2017, fun year, I think.
Let's jump ahead to 2018. And Mod John, when you get a second, we've got a Mod Bruno and a Mod Nasty lurking outside the door. Hello, guys.
They wait for gaps that we can let them come in. What else? What happened late 2017?
We don't care. 2018. It's on screen.
Get out. Who cares?
Oh my God. Another
2017 happened.
All about content.
Mobile, the big one, right?
Old School Mobile, yeah. That really changed the future, our direction.
Well, there's a huge amount of effort going into that one release, right? Like, so many people were working on that. It was basically the engine team's focus for a good year and a half plus.
Yep.
Just purely working on that. You had yourself, Ash, and Ed working heavily towards the end on all the content changes to make the UI work and so on.
Yeah, the game frame stuff. I had to do quite a lot of work on that, and Ed was on it for even longer and did even more. And it was difficult taking a game that had always been played a certain way round with a chat box at the bottom and adapting it to not be like that.
Lenny had to tie up a load of membership scripts and all of that stuff. That was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh! But what an amazing thing to have been able to do with this old game. Like, I've heard a lot of stories from a lot of people saying, "How on earth did you port this like 2007 browser game to mobile?" But
that's not just players and devs; it's just industry.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, like. The fact we were able to do that, and now you can take it with you. You can go to the pub with friends, so that you can still socialise and still get your fishing experience
or
along the
some
side.
people do go into meeting rooms.
Yes.
That's you.
Have a meeting. No, I don't play mobile.
Yes.
I've never played mobile in a meeting.
And some of that dates back to Andrew first creating our engine in the first place. Like the fact that he wrote this thing in 2004 to run on a low-spec computer over a dial-up modem, for those who can remember those noises they made. he made RuneScape 2 to run on one of those, which means our download size is tiny because everything was so optimized to have a minimal download, and our data usage is also tiny because modem. So the fact is now, fast forward to the present on mobile, that becomes a massive advantage.
Yeah.
It hadn't been in prior years because small download doesn't really matter. Everyone's got broadband these days. Low data usage, again, no one cares. But for mobile, it's a massive advantage to us.
I think when we launched it, we were only doing something like 40 meg an hour of gameplay. Like the actual download rate, the download of what you got was 40 meg for the whole hour. When you go look at a video on YouTube or something, and it's bigger than that these days.
I think what's pretty nuts about the whole thing of mobile, especially, like, obviously mobile put a ton of members into the game, and like Jags Wave announced, like, we've beaten our 2007 membership record. We went well over 1 million members across RuneScape and Old School. Like, that's pretty ridiculous.
Yes.
To think everyone looks back at this game as like, remember that game from the 2000s? Well, 2018 when mobile went out.
You know what? We should have got that BAFTA
Bigger than
on the
ever.
table for this stream.
Yeah.
Which is sort of crazy to think about.
I'm kind of like waiting for the day that I go back for like the reunion at my secondary school, and then go back to a bunch of people that I used to play RuneScape with back in like 2004, 2005, and go, yeah, you know that game we played back then? I work on that now, 15 years later. And it's just, you just think, what a crazy world we live in. That you go back that when I was 13, 14, spend all my days playing RuneScape, and now that's where I'm here.
So mobile aside, we also had Dragon Slayer 2. We obviously Ed announced that at RuneFest
Ed's
in 2017. His moment. That was such an incredible announcement, and then the content as well was fantastic. Really well received update. Theatre of Blood in the summer.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think
Our second ever raid.
I think my favourite part about Dragon Slayer 2 was launch day, because I think Kieran had done sections of Galvac, and so Kieran recreated the water wall as it goes across the boat.
Yep.
And streamers just getting up to the point, or players just getting up to that point, and because that kind of mechanic was similar to what the Queen Black Dragon had, and there was always a way you could walk through the wall if you selected it at the right time.
Yep.
First person, I think it was Dalek Cookie, goes to do exactly that and just gets one shot, and you just see Kieran's got his headphones on watching, and you just hear him just like jump out of his chair screaming, going, "Ha ha! Those 8 hours it took me to code that one bug out of it have finally worked." It just screams across the office.
You undersell it.
Well,
I was so much more excited than that.
I'm not going to scream when I've got a microphone attached to me because it'll deafen the viewers.
Because
but-
everyone knew this was a thing you could do from previous bosses, where you could just sort of step across a moving fire, because of the way running works, right? It sort of teleports you 2 tiles. So people knew this, and I had to try and write a system that would detect the fact you walked across it, but didn't walk through the gap. So if you imagine, you could walk diagonally, like 2 steps in that way, and go through the gap, and you'd be fine. So I had to make sure that was acceptable, and that was not detected as going through the wall. So I'm going through all the pathfinding system, like trying to work out, like, okay, where are you going to walk to if you click there, just to make sure that I only damage you if you walk through the fire. This is why it took 8 hours. It was a nightmare, but it paid off. Big time.
But let's hop forward to 2019, because we've got a crowd of people gathering now. We're overrunning a bit. I think we could probably kill 10 hours by talking through Old School's history.
Yep.
2019, again, lots and lots of new content coming to the game. This is on the back of mobile. So we were able to start the year with Kebos Lowlands and riding high of that membership count. Kebos Lowlands came with, I think it's probably one of the biggest expansions we've ever done in terms of actual content, because there was a skilling content, obviously the farming guild, aerial fishing, combat as well.
I think over 2018 and 2019 we really got the level of quality in these bigger releases is so high. Like, you look at anywhere like the Farming Guild to Konar and the Alchemical Hydra, and the effort going into the graphics here and how amazing they look. Like, genuinely incredible.
All of these,
compared to like when we're looking back at like
Zora.
Motherlode Mine and that sort of stuff, and there's no discredit to your like obviously repurposing work that was great, but to see that transition from going from we've got no art team to we are putting serious dedicated effort into like the quality of these things, like it's quite amazing.
Yep.
Right, so we go to the 2020 slide, which is looking quite. Oh, hang on, very shortly. No.
2020 slide.
So we've kept this one nice and blank because we're only at the start of the year. Nightmare of Ashihama released recently. RuneFest, we announced clans, we announced Group Iron Man, Kingdom Divided. But otherwise, I think it's just a blank canvas. We're building a roadmap for it. I think it's starting to look really, really solid.
We've got some exciting stuff that I can't wait to talk
Without getting into specific content, what do you think the feeling in the studio and feeling in the team is?
I think we've got a good feeling as that. I think we are obviously over the last year, we've kind of gone through a bit of a restructuring within the team with what's going on, and everyone's kind of getting really amped up for the direction that we want to go and we can go, and that the management structure we have now is going to be allowing us to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I've got so much confidence in the new. It sounds like I'm scripted or anything. So much confidence in the management structure, just because they want to empower every dev, artist, QA on the team to just make good content for the player base. So much, I think, in terms of organisation, we're optimised to deliver as much good content as we've ever have been.
Put it in perspective, over 2019, was the real start of trying to amp up the size of this team, right? We brought in 4 content developers in 2019. That's quite a lot, especially in 1 year. This year, 2020, trying to bring in 5. So, over the course of 2 years, that'll be 9 new developers brought into this team. You're talking back in 2014 when the offer on the table of getting a bunch of devs for a better membership, a higher membership price, and now we're at this position where this team is really getting to a size where we can start to deliver really solid content all the time.
It's also giving us the opportunity to fix some of the older things. Take, for example, the new player experience. RuneScape has always struggled a little with that. Once you get off the island, you're dropped in Lumbridge, and a lot of players just don't know what they're there for, don't know what they might want to do. And sure, there might be a tutor to talk to about woodcutting if you think to talk to the people in blue to learn what they might want to say to you. But it's not exactly a smooth intro to a game. And while some players have taken a very strong line of, well, that's why players in RuneScape are superior, because they got through that. So, realistically, I think we could be a little bit more helpful to welcome new people to our community than just leave them to get good all by themselves with a tutor to talk to if they happen to think that's what it's for. So a lot of work has been done in the last few months to actually address that. Trying things, see if they work. The adventure path that we put out last year actually did have some positive improvements, and players who went and had a go at it as well, existing players, seemed quite complimentary in a lot of cases. So we put out another one yesterday, and this has also got some surprisingly nice reviews from players who went and had a look at the thing. I'm not sure why you wanted to, but thank you. And hopefully we'll see the improvement in new player retention as well. Now, this kind of stuff doesn't necessarily get a lot of player excitement, but for looking after a game in the long term, I think it really is necessary to invest in this kind of thing. And by having a team that can do the exciting new content that can go in the marketing promos, and also look after its older areas and maybe rework some more mini games, we can hopefully keep improving Old School for years to come with the extra resources Kieran describes.
I think it goes without saying as well, a big thank you to the player base for supporting us for the past 7 years. We couldn't do it without you. And yeah, here's to another 7.
At least.
At least. I think that brings us to the end of this section of the stream. Next up will be Mod Kieran and Mod Oasis playing through the birthday event. So if you haven't already, stay tuned and you can play with them in the game world. And then after that, we'll be back with a data stream. And then after that will be Mods Ash and Bruno with some JMod hide and seek. So Mod Kieran, do you want to skedaddle?
Yep, absolutely.
Mod John, should we put up a little temporary slide? And we can depart the couch gracefully.